Hey everyone, it's Charlie Morgan here, and in today's video I'm going to explain how to be consistent, how you can achieve predictable, reliable and consistent behavior so that you can make progress towards your goals. Whether this is being consistent with work or diet or sleep or exercise or anything like that, I'm going to show you how to actually do this. Because your job as a young man or woman is to find a pace that you can maintain throughout your work and your life for the next 50, 60, 70 years. And I've been figuring out how to become consistent for really the last 8 years. And it's not as easy as you think. It's not about just reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's not about creating a calendar that you tick off. It's not about the Pomodoro technique. It's not about any of that stuff. It's not about watching productivity gurus. It comes down to a very simple method and framework that has worked for me. And so in this video, I'm going to explain and share an idea that has allowed me to become consistent. And if you're wondering what the result of consistency is, it's success. Because without consistency, you can't really have success. Now, I've had a lot of people commenting on my recent videos who have no idea who I am. And they say, oh, why should we listen to this guy? He's just some weird looking dude that wears a $30 watch with the dodgiest facial hair you've ever seen. And you probably shouldn't trust him because what does he know? How does he know what he's talking about? Well, my name is Charlie and I've built a company called Imperium Acquisition, which is a near enough 8-figure consulting business. Last year we made just under $10 million. And if you're wondering where consistency gets you, well, this is where I live. I don't know if you can see this out there, but I live on the Palm in Dubai. In fact, if I actually show you, apparently I'm supposed to make some sort of effort at building credibility on this YouTube channel. I prefer to do that through ideas as opposed to material objects, but if you want to see if I actually know what I'm talking about, this is my house. I live on the Palm. That's the thing. You can sort of see. This is my house, all right? So I don't drive a Lamborghini. I don't have a Richard Mille. Oh, can't even use a tripod apparently. I don't have a Richard Mille watch. I don't drive around with supermodels and I don't do all of that stuff. I just sit at this desk and work consistently, right? Now, for those of you wondering, no, I have not just rented this house for a day, but if you think I have, I don't really care because, well, I know the truth and that's what matters. Right, so let's actually get into this video and the topic of today's video, which is of course consistency. So what you have to understand is that what we're looking to do is consistency is a behavioral phenomenon, right? And so what this means is that we need to understand, to first get to the bottom of this, we need to understand what behavior actually is. Now, I'm also aware that I always make spelling mistakes on this whiteboard as I'm talking. So if you do see spelling mistakes, and I think I've spelled behavior, that looks wrong. See, now I'm just going to start saying it. This says behavior. If I've spelled it wrong, it doesn't really matter, right? So we need to understand what behavior actually is to get to the bottom of this, right? So behavior is basically physical action coming from the body, right? And so here's the body, okay? And behavior manifests, from this body in all sorts of different ways, right? And so I'm going to use different shapes to represent different manifestations of behavior, right? And let's just draw that one up here. I'll draw it down here so you can see. Okay, so the body will manifest different behaviors, and what we're looking to do is we're looking to consistently manifest the same behaviors over and over again, at least ones that are conducive towards us getting our goals, right? And so, let's say that over here, this square is exercise, right? And let's say this over here is smoking. And let's say this over here is work, and this is gaming, right? And then this here could be Netflix, right? So what we can see is that some of these behaviors, for example, exercise and work, are probably going to be conducive towards your goal, right? And so the first thing you need to do in order to achieve consistency is actually have a goal, right? And we'll come back to this drawing when it makes sense to. The very first thing you have to do to achieve consistent behavior towards a goal is to actually have a goal. Because if you don't know what you want, then you're not going to be able to optimize and make decisions and manifest behaviors that help you achieve this goal. My goal, for example, is to make $1 billion. Because for some reason, I have tied my self-worth to financial achievement, not because I want more money, but because I see this as a scoreboard, and I am by nature a gamer, at least that's how I grew up. So I like to see money as a means of achievement. Yours might be something different. Your goal can be anything. It could be to reverse climate change, it could be to retire your mother. It doesn't have to be money. It can be anything that you want it to be, right? But once you've defined your goal, now we can perform something called optimization, okay? And optimization is basically where you take your goal and you ask yourself a series of questions. And those questions should revolve every day around what behaviors do I have to partake in to achieve said goal. So for example, if we come back to my goal here of making $1 billion, earlier on we had this diagram, right? Where we had the man, and then we had one behavior up here, another behavior here, we had another behavior here. There was all sorts of different things that we could do, right? And so we can wake up every day and we can expend our calories or energy and focus in many different ways. And so one of these is work, one of these is exercise. I know these are not quite aligned with what the example was earlier, but one of these is gaming, right? And then smoking, right? So it's fairly self-explanatory to understand this, because in order for me to make $1 billion, I'm going to have to be around on this planet for quite a long time, because this is a pretty strong financial achievement that's probably going to take decades. And so if I am smoking, right, well, I might not live to see 40. At least I might not anyway, but if I smoke, the chances of me seeing 40 are significantly reduced. And so what I want to do is consistently not smoke. So there are some behaviors that you want to be inconsistent with, or at least completely eradicate, right? And likewise, gaming. If I am sitting around on Warzone, slide cancelling with a great KD, that's fun, and I enjoy doing that, at least my dopaminergic system does, but it's not really conducive towards my goal, and so I need to eliminate it. And so the first step to actually becoming consistent is to eliminate behaviors that don't contribute towards your goal. Because what happens when you sacrifice behaviors or manifestations of action from thought consistently, when you sacrifice these, all of the energy that was going into these things can now be poured into the things that you actually want to go into. And so the first stage to becoming consistent with any behavior is to eliminating other behaviors that you don't need or that you don't want. And you're going to have a lot of these things. The chances are, if you are in life right now and you're not very happy with where you are and your life kind of sucks and you're miserable and unhappy, well, you're going to need to get rid of a lot of things. You're going to need to get rid of certain people, certain behaviors, certain habits, addictions, vices, you name it. And when I tell you to do that, you're going to say, oh, but I need it because of this. Well, you're just coping and you don't, okay? So this is the first thing, is understanding that behavior manifests from the body, right? So let's get back to this diagram, right? So this is you, okay? I'm sure your legs are a little bit longer than your head, but we're gonna go with that, right? So up in your head, you have, I hope, a brain, right? And let's just make this nice and colourful. I know that you stick around for the drawings more than anything, but let's say that this is your brain, right? Now, what's gonna happen is, in order for your body to perform an action, your brain first needs to provide like a stimulus, or by stimulus I mean like your brain needs to actually say, okay, we're gonna do this action. So what happens is, first principle, the brain sends a signal to the body for it to do something, right? And so, for example, if the behavior that you're trying to be consistent with is exercising, then your brain's gonna send a stimulus or like a series of electrical impulses to the body. For example, put one foot in front of the other, or drive to the gym, or put on your gym clothes, or get in the cold shower, or hit that punch bag. It's gonna just do this, right? What that means is that behaviors come from your body. They come from your mind, right, first of all, but really they're coming out of your body, right? I'm hoping this might seem really weird to you, and it might seem like some sort of weird thing, but I'm going to explain exactly how this works, right? And it should make sense in just a second. What we can do is we can actually apply a school of thought called systems thinking to this equation to better understand how to become consistent and how me drawing a body and a weird looking brain can in any way, shape or form make you consistent. So there is a book called Thinking in Systems, right, by Donella Meadows. Donella Meadows' systems thinking is what Adam Smith is to economics, or what Freud is to psychology, for example. She's basically like a founding father or founding godmother or woman mother, right? So let's actually get into this. The body basically operates as a system. And what this means is you have inputs, you have processes, okay, inputs, you have a process or processes, and then we have outputs. And then down here, we have something called feedback. And then we have over here an environment, right? All systems operate in environment. So what does this funny looking diagram have to do with you being consistent with your work? Well, behavior is an output and the body is the process, right? So what I'm saying here is that when I draw a stick man, and we say that he's going to work or he's going to exercise, right? These actions here, or these behaviors, are outputs. And the body and the brain is the process. So what this means is when I just draw this simple diagram of this stick man, is we're missing two things, really. We're missing inputs and we're missing feedback. So we're going to focus on inputs mainly because these are the things that you need to keep consistent with. So what this means is that consistency is an output. And for every output, there is an input. So let me explain. So at first principle, the way that your body works is as follows, okay? So the body here, right? This represents the process. And then over here, I'm just gonna draw, let's just say for argument's sake that this is food. So this is like a steak, yummy. And then over here, you've got like, I don't know, some broccoli or whatever the hell that is supposed to be. And then you've also got something called sleep. And then on top of that, we've also got water, right? Now there's obviously more to it than this, but this is pretty simple, okay? So what this means is we have biological inputs that go into our body that our body then processes to produce outputs. So behavior has to come from the body, but in order for the body to get energy to perform the behavior, it has to get it from a source. So really what you're looking at here is water, food, and sleep. So these things here, there are more things than this. Obviously you've got microvitamins, you've got sunlight, etc., social interaction, etc., etc., etc. But really at its core, we have like organic inputs, essentially, right? And so we can call these inputs. Now, what's going to happen is the body is going to digest the food, it's going to sleep, it's going to drink the water and absorb the water and the nutrients in the water or whatever to basically get energy, right? And so really the output, of this is sort of secondary output is energy, right? But then the energy is taken and converted into behavior, right? So this could be anything from, reading a book, to sitting down and working on a screen, to let's just say this person's this is supposed to be someone running with a severe spinal problem, but you get the point. Or alternatively, it could go into a bad website that we don't want to go into. It could go into you sitting around just aimlessly on a couch, just sitting here watching TV. This energy can go into many different places, right? And so what this means is that people completely misunderstand the principle and premise of consistency. What they need to understand is that it's not about being consistent with your behavior, right? And there's one other thing over here that I forgot to draw. I'm going to draw this just up here. Can you see up there? Yes, you can. Okay. This represents your goal, right? It's not about being consistent with your behavior. It's about being consistent with your inputs. It's near enough impossible for you to have behavioral consistency when you have dietary, sleep, hydration, and outcome, desire, inconsistencies. Your behavior is an output, your body processes inputs. And if your body is forced to process inconsistent inputs, then it will produce inconsistent outputs. Let's say you are a car manufacturer, right? And what you want to try and do is you want to manufacture the same car over and over again. What you're trying to do is achieve predictability. If you are, if you are Mercedes, right? And you have your factory here, which processes all of the raw materials to make a certain. Let's just say you're trying to make a C220D, right, which is a brand of a type of Mercedes. Well, if over here the inputs are different every time, then what's going to happen is you're going to make a different car every time. So let's just say, for example, that you want to make the same car over and over, but every time you go to make the car, you change the wheel arches and the chassis slightly. Well, what's going to happen is when the machine goes to process the inputs, you're going to have a slightly different car every time. And the same thing is true with your behavior. And so the secret to mastering your behavior and the secret to mastering consistent behavior and to maintaining a level of integrity and predictability to your behavior is to focus on this. Because we can't really control this, or we can control how we behave, and that's free will and stuff. But it's significantly easier and more straightforward to do the right thing when we're doing the right thing in the first place. And it's you never really want to rely on your body. Now, there's another thing. There's two more things, really, because the goal's a big one. We're going to talk about all of these things in a second. In fact, I'm going to write them over here. Yeah, those are the main ones. So I'm going to get into this in a second. But there's another thing, right? And that is your environment. Okay? I don't know if you can see this, that's way up there, but you can sort of see the environment up there. And I'm going to explain all these in a second, right? The inputs have a huge influence on your body, which has a huge influence on your behavior. But really, the thing that people don't see is the environment. And your environment is basically the immediate space that you live in and operate out of. And this environment will have more of an influence on your behavior than anything, maybe with the exception of the core biological inputs. But on top of that, what we have here is we have what's called a feedback loop, right? And this can go in one of two ways. So feedback is a phenomenon, a natural phenomenon that basically drives the entire planet and the entire universe, right? And this can be feedback either positive or negative feedback, right? So let's say for a second here that you eat junk food, you sleep terribly, you drink 1 glass of water a day, and you don't really have a goal. Well, what's going to happen is your body's going to have to process all of the bad food, and it's going to have to deal with all this chaos that you've given it, essentially, which is what bad food is it's chaos. It's not going to have enough sleep, so you're not going to be able to focus. Your emotional regulation is going to be completely screwed, and you're kind of going to be in just some mental trouble. You're not drinking enough water, so your body's basically dying, and you don't have a goal, so you feel demotivated, insecure, and terrified. What I can tell you, if you're a young person and you're conscientious by nature, which you probably are if you spend 20 minutes watching a weirdo talk about systems thinking, you need to have a goal. You need to have a clear goal, because if you don't have a clear goal, you have nowhere to channel your conscientiousness. You have nowhere to basically go. You have nothing to aim at. For a lot of people in life, that's totally fine, and they're happy to take each day as it comes and just, live, laugh, love. Can't believe I just said that out loud, but you get the point, right? A lot of people are happy to just, aimlessly go through life, and that's great for them. But for us, for those of you like me, we need to have a goal. And so if we don't, we get, kind of depressed and sad, and, if we can't map our progress towards something along a reliable trajectory, we feel chaotic, out of control, and we get in some trouble. So let's say these inputs are really bad, right? Well, what's going to happen is bad inputs are going to lead to bad behavior. Because if you're eating bad food and you're not drinking water, you're not sleeping, there's no goal. Well, first of all, if there's no goal, you've got nothing to work towards, so you're not going to, it's kind of impossible work, and I'm talking about meaningful work here, work towards a goal, essentially, which is what meaning is to me at least. It's kind of impossible for meaningful work to manifest if you haven't got a meaningful goal to do it for in the first place. Because there's a direct relationship here between input and output. Meaningful goal equals meaningful work. No meaningful goal equals no meaningful work. And so if you want to make work, a meaningful work, a consistent output of behavior, then you need to have the input required for that output to manifest. It would be like trying to make a car, and you build the factory and everything, and you desire a specific car, but you forget to put the engine in the car. when it comes to the assembly line, you're like, oh, I kind of forgot to buy the parts for the engine. So great, now we've got a car without an engine. Well, you're not going to build a car if you haven't got an engine, right? And so, on top of that, because your diet is really bad and you're eating loads of sugar, you get fat. And when you get fat, your natural inclination is just to do fat things, like sit around and because, you're ashamed to exercise because, well, you can. And so it's kind of impossible for healthy behavior to manifest when you have an unhealthy diet. Now, there's an argument to be made here where, like, eating healthy and sleeping and drinking and setting goals are outputs, but this is where the feedback comes in. Because when you eat healthily, like, that's a behavior. When you go to bed on time, that's a behavior. When you drink water, that's a behavior. When you set a goal, that's a behavior. So these are kind of outputs more than they are inputs. But I'm talking about these on a first principle biological level, where they are what you ingest or what you expose yourself to basically, create behaviors. But this is where the feedback thing comes in. Because if you eat bad, sleep bad, drink bad, and you have no goal, then, you're not going to be reading much because, you're in a bad place because you can't really focus because you haven't got enough sleep. Get 4 hours of sleep and then try and sit through a book for like half an hour. It's bloody impossible because I meditate regularly. And if I've had a bad night's sleep, I can't focus to save my life. Quite literally, I mean that, right? If you do all these things badly, then you're going to end up like doing stupid behaviors. And then what these stupid behaviors are going to do is they're going to positively reinforce the bad inputs. And so inside of this system, inside of this thing that encapsulates your body essentially is a feedback loop. Because if you eat bad and you get fat, right, and then you sit around doing nothing, and then your dopaminergic systems favor sugar, seed oils, salts, all of this bad stuff, right, then a feedback loop's going to start to form where, if you eat terrible foods, then you're going to get fatter, which means you're going to eat more terrible foods. And this feedback loop here is just going to cycle out of control until the point that you get very upset and unhappy. Now, this is entirely possible to reverse and to do in the completely different direction, where, if you eat, the right foods, and you're eating stuff that's healthy and good, and you're exercising, then what's going to happen is you're going to start to lose weight, and you're going to get thinner, and then you're going to get, muscular, and you're going to feel good. But then the problem with this is if you're not careful, this feedback loop, if you eat too much good stuff, and all you focus on is fasting and, you're exercising as much as you can, then you can develop anorexia or bulimia, which makes you really thin and really unhealthy. And so anything taken to its extreme is obviously going to become its opposite. And this is not a nice place to be. And I'm not saying that if you eat healthily, you're going to get anorexia. But the point I'm trying to make is that you want to be very careful with these feedback loops, right? And you want to balance everything, because if all you eat is broccoli, you're going to die, right? Trust me, I've seen someone try to do it. So we understand now that in order for you to achieve behavioral consistency, you need to have input consistency, right? Because behavior is an output, and these things are what your body processes to produce the output. This is the thing, you're probably being consistent in your life right now. You're probably just being consistent with behaviors that you don't value or seem fit for you achieving your goal. Because let's say, for example, that you drink. Let's say you drink every weekend. Let's say you smoke. Let's say you play video games like a few hours a day. Let's say you sort of scroll on Instagram all the time. You are being consistent. You don't realize this, right? If there are bad behaviors that you continue to repeat over and over again habitually, you're being consistent. You're just being consistent with things that you don't want to be consistent with. And what this means is that there is some value misalignment here, where you understand that if you want to get where you want to go, you have to get rid of these current behaviors, but you're being consistent as it is. So what you can do is you can apply the same principles you use to achieve consistency with the bad behaviors to the good ones, right? Because, if you're addicted to video games right now, then, probably what's happening here is in your environment, if you can see this up here, inside of your environment, maybe there's an Xbox, right? And just by having this Xbox in your environment is leading to you, playing the Xbox. And essentially what this is doing is every time you play the Xbox, we achieve this feedback loop, right? So by having the Xbox in your environment, you play it, and then what you want to do is you want to have the Xbox in your environment even more, because you want to keep playing it, because, you're receiving your dopamine from shooting people in the brain instead of actually making cold calls and making money, right? Because what you have to understand about gaming and video games and all of these bad behaviors, whether it's smoking, drugs, alcohol, addictions, vices, women, Xbox, whatever it is, right, is your brain has a latent desire for accomplishment, right? And so it has this sort of loop in its brain where it wants to receive gratification, which is what I'm going to draw. Let's just pretend this resembles, gratification. Your brain has a natural latent desire for gratification, right? And when you strip yourself of negative behaviors like pornography or TV or Netflix or like doom scrolling, this loop that desires gratification inside of your mind, suddenly there's what we call a dopamine vacuum, right? I don't think that's actually what it's called, it's just what I've called it, right? So it might not actually be a thing, but I'm calling the term, right? And so you create a dopamine vacuum in your head when you remove these bad behaviors, and this has to be replaced by something. And if you're lucky and you remove it and you follow these instructions and you listen, you can replace it with work. And then what starts to happen is you'll derive your satisfaction and you'll derive your serotonin and dopamine from work, and this loop here will occur when you work and make progress towards your goal, as opposed to just sitting on, Call of Duty or GTA. So that's basically how this works. It sort of first principle is you need to learn to think in systems. You need to learn to understand that your body is going to process biological inputs to produce outputs, right? And so if you're eating terribly, if you're sleeping bad, not drinking enough water, you have no goal, not getting enough sunlight, you're not getting enough social interaction, then this is going to create all sorts of problems for you when your body tries to deal with this stuff, right? I'm going to put nothing here. And I can tell you this is true because I have had this happen to me on both spectrums over and over again, right? So maybe in life your behavior is super inconsistent, right? And maybe what it looks like is like this, right? Where we have this wavelength diagram here. Now, you're probably going to resonate with this, and it's probably going to scare you a little bit, and I'm about to explain yourself to yourself, which might make you a bit uncomfortable. So we have here, this line here, right, represents the average. And then up here, if I just draw this in green, okay, up here, this represents the peak. And then down here, we have the trough, right? Or we have the low point. And so what most people's lives look like is peaks and troughs, right? So this diagram here can represent anything. It can probably represent your relationship with the gym. It can represent your relationship with reading. It can represent your relationship with work, with progress, with anything, right? And what basically happens is you have this sort of behavioral thermometer inside of your mind where you have a peak and you have a trough. So if you look at your bank balance right now, I guarantee what's happening is you save up enough money to basically achieve a peak, right? And then once you've achieved that peak, a certain emotional state takes over your behavior and you regulate the money back down to a trough. And the trough is basically your panic point. So your panic, once you get to the trough, once you get to a certain number in your bank account, you start working harder, saving more, and regulating the money back up to this point where you then achieve a peak again, and then lo and behold, you bring it back down to the trough, right? So another example of this could be your body weight. It could be how often you meditate. But the easiest one to look at is your bank balance because, well, it will fluctuate like this, right? And so the one thing to achieving consistency is understanding that you are not the highest version of yourself that you can imagine. You're also not the worst version of yourself that you can possibly go to. You are basically the average sum of both of these points. And so this sort of dotted line in here, this represents the average. And so if I mapped your bank account or body weight or body fat or anything that was tangible that I could measure, right? How much water you drink, how often you go out, how many hours of work you do, any behavior that I can give you, right? At least any behavior that you're trying to improve and regulate. What I'll be able to do is map it out over a 90, 180 day, 365 day time horizon, and I'll be able to establish an average, right? So for example, I've got 8, 9 sales reps in my company right now, and they will fluctuate between commission checks where 1 minute they're making 20 grand and then a couple months later they're only going to make 10, and then 10 is their panic number and income for the month, and so the next month they do really well and they get back to 18, 20, and then they fluctuate and they go up and down, right? And what I'm able to do is I'm able to track this, these outputs onto a spreadsheet, and I'm able to establish an average. And so it's easy if you're not careful to like look at a sales rep who's just had their best month and think, God, this person's the best in the world. But numbers don't present themselves in small data sets. And if you want to understand how to become consistent, you need to understand something called regression to the mean, which basically indicates that like if you're trying to establish an average, you have to look in a long time horizon with a significant amount of data. In science, this is called having numerical validity, right? Where you've got enough data over a long enough period of time to actually measure a predictable average. Because if you don't have this, you don't know if you're being consistent or not. Because you could watch this video and then have 2 weeks of just stellar behavior. But if that's like, you could be at your peak of, you know, what we would call discipline, right? You know, where you've got you're firing on all cylinders, you know, you're super confident, you're gonna take over the world, you're working really hard, you're sleeping on time, you're doing cold plunges, cold showers, meditation, you're on self-improvement, you're reading, you're not watching YouTube, like everything's going really well. And then you get to this point, and then for some reason, you just go, and you bring it down to a trough where now, you know, you're watching pornography, you're eating bad food, you're not sleeping on time, you're doing the literal polar opposite of what you did, and now your emotional state's in the gutter. But then, once you've been here for too long, then you get sick and tired, you start developing self-hatred, you start like, I know this is true because I've literally lived this, right? Then you get hatred, and then you get sick and tired of it, and then you feel ill, and then you're like, oh no, this is terrible. And then you go up, and then you achieve the peak again, and then you get back into this state. And so for most entrepreneurs, their life exists in this wavelength. Most. It is possible to break this. I won't go into it today. I might make it. If you want to see how to break this cycle, leave a comment below. Because for me to explain how to break this is going to take like literally 2 hours, and it will way go off the topic of consistency. But if you want to do that, maybe tell me, and then I can and then like any comments that say that they want to see this, and then if there's enough people that want it, then I'll make it. But yeah, so this is how the thing works. But what we're trying to do is establish this average, because you're not your peak and you're not your trough. You are typically the mean or median average between these 2 points. So what we're trying to do here, and the point we're trying to make, is we want to have something to reliably track our behavior, right? And so whenever you're trying to create a new behavior or introduce like consistency into a specific part of your life, such as meditation, such as work, such as sleep, such as diet, what you need to have is a way to track it. And if you're wondering, what does this mean? You don't need to have an app. You don't need to have like some sort of like, you don't need Notion, you don't need anything. What you really just need is a nice, simple Google sheet, right? And so, you know, what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw a nice, simple spreadsheet, right? Like this, okay? And so what we do on this column is we have the date, and then we have the behavior. This could just be behavior 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And so let's just say this is the 1st of January. This is, you know, the 2nd of January. And you get the point, right? So what you want to do is you want to create these spreadsheets for basically every facet of your life. And, you know, you're going to make one for each month, and you want one for the whole year. And then what we're looking here is, let's say behavior 1 is the time you went to bed. Let's just say one thing that you want to keep consistent is your bedtime, right? Because we're going to talk about sleep in a second here, which is actually just circadian rhythm. And I'm going to talk to you about how to become consistent with your bedtime shortly. But what you want to do every single day is track what time you went to bed. So every morning you're going to wake up and say, okay, what time did I go to bed last night? And then what you'll find is that it might be 11 p.m., it might be 11 p.m., might be 11 p.m. And then, you know, you're on a roll, p.m., and then somehow you went to bed at 4 a.m., right? If we look at this, you might think, well, I'm consistent here because I'm going to bed at 11 p.m. But if we took all of these numbers together and we added them up, we'd find out the average might actually be 12 a.m. because one night you went to bed at 4 a.m. Then let's say behavior number 2 that you're trying to track is calories, and you're trying to keep a consistent number of calories into your diet, or, you know, that's basically how much energy am I actually giving my body to process into, you know, outputs. And so let's say on the 1st of January you do 2,000, and on the 2nd you do another 2,000, and on the 3rd you're going strong, right? The cut's going well, right? And then on the 5th, you think, okay, well, I've been consistent for 4 days, I'll have a cheat day. And then you decide to go for, I don't know, 6,000 calories, right? And so most people, most normal humans will observe their behavior and they'll think, okay, well, I'm just eating 2,000 calories a day because I did it for 4 days straight. And now I'm having a cheat day, so I'm being consistent, right? Well, no, because what's happened here is you've eaten 2,000, 4,000. So if we add this up and calculate the mean, we can actually find the average, right? And so 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 14,000. So in 5 days, we've eaten 14,000 calories. So really, like if we actually calculated the average here, your average is 2,800 calories because 14,000 divided by 5 is, I believe, 2,800. And so what you can see here is this one day of eating a huge surplus is leading you to actually eating 2,800. And so this here, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 6,000, is equivalent to this here, which is 2,800, 2,800, 2,800, 2,800, and 2,800. So what you shouldn't do is reward yourself for behaving good for 4 days, and you shouldn't punish yourself for eating bad one day if your goal is to get to 2,800. But if your goal is to do 2,000 per day, then you should punish yourself for this, right? And so, what you need to do is really 5 days is not long enough to map your behavior and to map your average. But the danger that you have and that you can fall into is basically assuming what I would call a false identity. For example, if I have a sales rep that has an incredible sales week, right? And they go 60% conversion rate, balls to the wall, incredible sales week, right? If they have one really good sales week, but then the next 3 weeks are terrible, it doesn't mean they're a good sales rep. Well, we can do the math here, right? So let's say that, let's just pretend these are weeks, right? On week 1, let's say that they convert it 20%. Week 2, they do this amazing week and they get 60%. And then week 3 is only 10%. And then let's say that, week 4 is another 10%. Let's just pretend that week 5 doesn't exist for this one. So we're going to calculate the mean, right? So we're going to calculate the mean. So they might think because they've had one really good week that they're a killer, right? But really, if we do 60 plus 20, we get 80. Add 10, we get 100. Well, really, their conversion rate is only 20%, which is fine. That's a good sales conversion rate, and I'd be happy with that if the sales rep did that. But what we want to be careful of is the sales rep not assuming too strong of an identity because of the 60, or assuming too strong of identity because of the 100, the 10, right? Now, I'd always rather they assume this identity because they're going to perform better if they think they're a demon, but there's nothing, well, there's a lot of things worse than this, but there's nothing worse, in theory, than a sales rep who thinks they're incredible, but is actually really bad. Because then when you try and coach them or train them or teach them how to stop making mistakes, they don't listen to you because their ego's blocked because they see that they converted 60% one day. So what you want to try and do is basically create these sheets so you can track and map your behavior along a consistent time frame, right? And I can actually show you like how I've done this before, right? So what I can do here is I can actually look at my data. So it's really interesting because if I look at this here, here's my data for June 2022. I don't know if you can, 2020. So what I've done here, I don't know if you can see this, but this is my 2020 health tracker. And you can see along the bottom here, I've got June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And so what I can do whenever I want to is I can look at my metrics. And so I can track basically everything. So what you can see here, I don't know if you can actually get a look at this, but I've got all of my metrics. So I've got sleep time, I've got sleep start, sleep end, sleep duration, how long I was awake for, how much deep sleep I got, my heart rate variability, readiness score, sleep score, whether or not I did my mindset training, what my diet was like, whether I supplemented it, did I do a workout, when did I start work, when did I finish work, all of this stuff you can see is tracked. And so this is for June, right, 2020, this is for July, this is for August, this is for September, you can see here, October. So I've got a spreadsheet like this for basically every single behavior. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to keep a reliable, accurate log of where I actually am. Because if you don't have that, and if you don't have something that tracks the data, you don't really know how you're performing. And there's a saying in business, I think it's Harvard Business Review, Peter Drucker that came up with this, that says what gets measured gets improved. And so if you don't have something to reliably track, it doesn't matter if it's a spreadsheet like me or an app or anything, really, you can only use a spreadsheet for stuff like this. You need to know where you're at so you've got a consistent log of your outputs, okay? Because, well, if you don't, you're not gonna know. So you're gonna be that person that is going to bed at 11 for a few nights in a row, and then suddenly they go to bed at 4 in the morning, but they think they're being disciplined, but in reality they need to actually be sort of whipped into shape. So now, let's actually talk about these inputs, right? Because in order for you to, as I said, achieve like behavioral consistency by having your body burn energy and execute on tasks and do things that you want it to do, you need to give it the right fuel and you need to give it the right things in the first place. Otherwise, you're like the car manufacturer that's trying to make a car without an engine or with different wheels every time. It's just going to be a cursed car, right? So there's a few, and I'm going to walk you through them. And if you nail all of these things, and if you nail all of these inputs, then you're going to have a way, 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 way better chance of achieving the result you want in your life. Okay, so let's write them out. So the first one that we're going to talk about is your goal. Your goal is basically what you want. You need to sit down and clearly define your goal. And notice here how this is not pluralized. Notice how it's goal, it's not goals, right? The biggest mistake that people make is giving themselves too much to focus on and giving themselves too many goals. You know, when a new year rolls around, as it has done recently, people sit down and they say, what are my goals for the year? And then they say, okay, I want to stop drinking. I want to stop doing this. I want to stop doing that. I want to start doing this. And they give themselves like 10 different things to work on. Never going to happen, right? What I prefer to do is set one singular goal that is so large that every single behavior I have has to line up with it. Primary example I gave you earlier is I want to be a billionaire. Not because I want to have a stupid asymmetric level of corrupt power and a yacht, but because it's my way of measuring my progress, and I figured like, why the hell not, right? And so what this means is, because my goal is huge, I can't smoke. I have to go to bed on time. I can't do stupid stuff, and I have to do smart stuff, because my life is no longer about trying to line up my habits and be all cool and like self-improvementy. It's about doing something fucking huge. So let's say my goal, for example, instead of being a billionaire, maybe my goal is to reverse climate change. Well, if I'm trying to reverse climate change and that's what I'm trying to do with my life, I need to stop drinking. Not because I want to stop drinking for me, but because I want to stop drinking for the damn goal. Because if I'm drinking and like if I'm trying to design a new, more efficient solar panel or convince Brazil to stop deforestation, I can't really turn up to those meetings drunk, and I can't really try and make those blueprints drunk. So the best and fastest way to eliminate bad behavior and to be consistent with good behavior is to set a really big goal that basically encompasses and encapsulates all of the behaviors into one. And instead of trying to quit drinking, just quit this, quit that, and then instead of having 10 micro goals around your behavior, you need to have a macro goal. Because newsflash for you, my friend, the reason that you struggle to be consistent with good behaviors and the reason you struggle to remove bad behaviors is because you have a tendency to self-sabotage. For some reason, you don't love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, it's near impossible for you to output behaviors. If your unconscious is like designed for self-sabotage, it's very difficult for you to start behaving in a way that is out of alignment with that. Now that is a completely different story for another day, and I'm not accusing you of not having self-love, but if you truly loved yourself, you wouldn't be killing yourself through smoking. If you truly loved yourself, you wouldn't be killing yourself through gaming. If you truly loved yourself, you wouldn't be killing yourself through drinking. So next time you tell yourself, oh yeah, I really love myself, maybe just think about that for a second, because you might be saying one thing to yourself, but your behavior is so different. Because if you truly loved yourself and you truly wanted the best for yourself, you wouldn't be scrolling through TikTok. So just that is very deep. That goes very deep, and I can make another video on it. Once again, if you want me to make a video on that, leave a comment like the other comments that say it, and the comments that go to the top will be the videos that are made. But the point here is that if you struggle with self-sabotage, you need to have a huge goal that really means something significant to you, and then your behavior will line up. Because if you're just trying to fix your behavior for yourself, ain't gonna happen, mate. Ain't gonna happen. There's a study that was done that I read about. They basically had these people, right, over here, and then they had like the people's pets. And what they found is that if the person had a pet, right, or the people who had pets, if their pet was sick, obviously the pets needed to take like some sort of pills or antibiotics. And so if the pet was sick, the person would almost always give their pet the antibiotics they needed, and they would give the pet their medicine. They would force the pet to take the medicine, basically. Hide it in their food, force feed it to them, put it in the water, whatever they had to do to get the pet to take the medicine, they would, because they loved their pet. But when it came to themselves, only like 50 to 60% of people, like if they got sick and they got unwell, and they were told to take pills or medicine, it was near enough impossible to achieve consistency for these people on average, for them to consistently take care of themselves. And so there's a rule in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life that says treat yourself as if you're someone that you love, or treat yourself as if you're someone responsible for taking care of. And by default, most people, if we're in a bad place, it's very rare that we do things consistently to take ourselves out of that bad place, because the reason we're in the bad place is because we're self-sabotaging, because of some sort of deep, dark, unconscious desire, right? And so instead of trying to fix your behavior so that you can be healthier or be happier or whatever, just set a huge goal that demands you to do it. And then what you'll do is all of your behavior and all of your work will be for your goal, not for you. Because for as long as it's for you, if you don't love yourself and if you don't really, really like yourself, you're never going to behave to take care of yourself. And this is why if people have a pet, they're more likely to give their pet the pills and antibiotics that the pet needs than they are for themselves. It's deep, and I'm not accusing you of self-loathing or self-hatred. I'm not telling you to not love yourself. I'm just saying that what you want to try and do is create a goal that you just absolutely adore and love, and then all of your behavior will be for the goal. He who has a why can bear almost any how. That's what Nietzsche said, right? And if your goal is a huge, huge why, then you'll bear almost any how. Then suddenly all of your behavior will clear up. This is another prime example that happens, right? I can tell you, I've just dropped my pen, I'm gonna pick it up. So another prime example of this, if you don't believe me, because you might not, and that's fair enough, because you should question absolutely everything. Let's say that you have someone here, right? And let's say that this is a woman, and let's say she's really sad and unhappy, and she has a really hard time with her life, right? She smokes all the time, you know, she drinks a lot, really bad behavior, she's just not having a good time. Then suddenly she gets pregnant, and 9 months later, a little baby is born, right? And now she's responsible for taking care of this child, which she absolutely loves, right? And now what's gonna happen is she doesn't love herself, which is why she partakes in all of these self-sabotaging behaviors, right? But now that she has a baby to take care of, i.e. a goal, and I'm not just saying that a woman's only goal is a child, don't be that stupid, but now that she has a baby to take care of, all of these behaviors can be completely eradicated. Completely gone, right? And I've heard stories before from mothers and from fathers as well. For example, some of my relatives, I won't say they're not that close, so distant relatives, they used to smoke habitually really bad, and then as soon as they had kids, they quit. So as soon as they had something to actually take care of other than themselves, they were absolutely fine, right? And the behavior completely eradicated. And you see this all the time, where when having kids can completely change a person. If a person is doing things to damage or harm themselves, or they're not being consistent with behaviors they want to be consistent with, well, as soon as they've got a child, now things change, because now it's not about them, it's about something else. And so if you're too young to have kids, right, which you probably are, and you may not want them yet, a goal is basically a child, okay? And if it means something to you and you love it, then all of your behavior will naturally line up to achieve it. And so this is probably the best and fastest way to becoming consistent with your behavior, is setting a meaningful goal. Because now if you believe you've truly been put on this planet to eradicate poverty in Africa, and that's what connects with you and that's what really means something to you, now you're gonna work. Even if you don't like yourself, even if you were self-sabotaging before, setting a good goal is like giving birth to a child. Now you've got something to take care of and nurture that means something to you, right? The danger of this, and I can tell you this for true, is when you achieve your goal, the self-sabotaging behavior will come back into fruition. So this goal needs to be something huge, because my goal before was just to become a millionaire, buy a nice car and have a fancy house, and then I got those things. And literally as soon as I got those things, I started going, my self-sabotaging behavior came back. The bad food came back, the smoking habit came back, the gaming habit came back, as soon as I achieved the goal. So this is not a perfect way, of fixing your behavior, because ultimately it's existing because of the negative self-sabotage, but it will get the job done. You know, maybe you want to spend the next 20, 30 years working on your psyche, working on your unconscious and figuring out why you self-sabotage. But if you have lots of tendency to self-sabotage, and you can't seem to get rid of it, just understand that for as long as you're doing it for yourself, you probably never will. You're gonna have to do all sorts of shadow work, therapy, unconscious stuff to make sure that works. But as soon as you have a meaningful goal, all that behavior will line up. So that's basically the goal thing. This is why I'm talking about inputs here, because the goal is basically the primary input of your behavior. Because if it means something, if it means enough, then what you're gonna start doing is every time that you have a decision to make, so let's just say that we've got path 1 here and path 2, right? So, if this is like a decision, for example, now obviously this is arbitrary because there's usually more than one path. And let's say that, this is just a dead end, and this is a dead end, this is a bad thing to do, right? And this is a good thing to do, right? Because what this is going to do is actually take you on to achieve your goal. When you have a clearly defined goal, every time you have a decision to make, you can now perform what we call optimization, which is where you're now going to ask yourself, okay, well, if I go down this path, I know that I'm going to not achieve my goal, and because my goal means a lot to me and I love it, I can't do this. So it cuts off these bad paths just by having like a good goal. But if you do decide to do the thing that's good, well then this is great because now you're going to achieve your goal. And so this is optimization, right? So say for example, you wake up in the morning and you have the impulse to lay in bed and watch Peaky Blinders, right? And so the one path is just lay in bed and watch Peaky Blinders. Second path is get up and make a YouTube video that will grow your YouTube channel, build your audience so that you have leverage and can make more money in the future, right? Which is basically what I'm doing now. So I had that impulse this morning and I was like, okay, well maybe we should not do the stupid thing, but let's do the good thing because my goal is huge and I want to achieve my goal because for some uncanny, deep, dark psychological reason, I have tied my self-worth to how much money I can make. I'm being honest with you, right? So basically that's that. That's the goal thing. So the other thing about goals is keeping them consistent, because my point here is, hoping you're starting to understand the premise of this video here, right? Is it's not about like the consistency is paradoxical, because in order for you to achieve consistency with your outputs or your behaviors, right, we need to achieve consistency through our inputs. But these inputs are kind of also behaviors as well, because like eating healthy food, going to bed on time, etc., like this is all like a behavior. But it's about focusing on the input-based behaviors instead of the output-based behaviors. Because if you're trying to focus on like, okay, I want to build the behavioral habit of reading, well, you're not going to be able to do that if you're sleeping really bad, if you're drunk, if you're eating terrible foods and you haven't got a good goal. What's the point in doing that? You want to sit down and read business biographies or, read about the Roman Empire or educate yourself. Well, if you haven't got a good reason to do that, which is your goal, then what's the point? You see what I'm saying? Right. So it's about being consistent with your inputs. And inputs are things that you can control, right? So we've been through the goal, and I'm hoping I haven't given you too much of an existential crisis here. But that's usually where these videos end up going. So we've been through the goal. We know what that is about, and we know that the goal is really the main thing. And if you have a huge, meaningful goal or a mission in life, that your behavior is going to line up, and you only need to have one big thing for all of your behavior to filter into it. Okay, so that's the goal done. Now, the next thing is your diet. Your diet has a ridiculous level of impact on your ability to achieve your outcome. So let me explain. If you consume alcohol, sugar, dare I say caffeine, if you're consuming seed oils, lots of gluten, lots of dairy, this gets political for some reason. There's only a few things on this planet that people get emotionally polarized to: politics, religion, and diet. I don't know why diet gets so, people get enraged about it. I'm going to share with you what works for me, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you think it's right. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't eat. I'm going to tell you what I eat and what works for me, and then you can make a decision as to whether or not you think that you could do the same. What you want to do is to perform an elimination diet, because your brain is incredibly important for you to achieve your goals, and it's very important for you to make good decisions and everything like that. But the problem is, the real problem that people don't understand is if this is your brain here, right, there is a single nerve in your body, right, like this, that connects to something called your gut, right? So this is your body in a simple drawing. This is your gut, this is your brain, and this here, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe this is called the vagus nerve. Now, it might not actually be called the vagus nerve. My biological knowledge might be slightly inept, so please forgive me if this is something else, but what I can tell you is let's just call this nerve, right? There is it might be a vagus nerve, but I'm not entirely sure, but there is something connecting your gut to your brain. And the quality of this connection is basically the quality of your life. So think of this as if this here is your phone, this here is your internet, and this here is a cable, right? is an easier way to understand this how your body works. You have your internet connection, which is incredibly important to the performance of your phone, because if you haven't got internet, you can hardly do anything on your phone. You have your brain. Now, obviously, you need to have a good phone, because if you've got like a really terrible little Nokia brick, you're not going to do much. But between internet and phone, there is a cable. And so the cable connects the internet to the phone. And so the way this works in your body is your gut is sort of like your internet connection, right? Your brain is, well, sort of like your phone, and this nerve, which I believe is called the vagus nerve, but it could be something else, is the thing that connects the two together. And the quality of this connection determines the quality of your life. How do we determine the quality of this connection? Well, we determine the quality of the gut, right? Your gut health has more impact on your life than near enough anything else in your body. Now, you can make an argument there, well, if I have a heart attack, I'm going to die, my heart's more important than the gut. Yes, okay, fair enough. If you have cancer, having good gut health might not matter as much, although there's a lot of arguments to be made that that's true. But the point here is the reason we want to have a good diet is not to lose weight. It's not to be in shape or look good or have a six pack, although that is going to be a byproduct of it. The real reason we want to have a good diet is to improve the quality of our gut health. Because if you've ever experienced something called brain fog before, which I'm sure you have, well, that's where it's kind of you're sluggish or lethargic, you haven't got much energy, it's kind of hard to work or think or focus or do anything. Well, this is because your gut is just being basically attacked. So if you eat really bad food, you're going to have a really bad gut. And what that means is you're going to have a bad connection from your gut to your brain, and you're going to experience brain fog. So anxiety, brain fog, depression in a lot of instances, all of these things that can go wrong with your brain, they start in the gut. And they start because you're eating foods that your body is not supposed to eat or digest. Now, if you're actually wondering what my diet looks like, I can show you. If you come with me, we're going to go through my house on a little adventure. The house that I rented for one day to make this video, right? So here we are. This is actually my kitchen. I don't know if you, maybe I should do a little house tour, but you can see this is my kitchen, right? So if you're wondering, what do I eat? It's basically just red meat, right? So really, all I'm eating is steak, right? And also, if you see here, all I'm really eating is sweet potato, right? So that's that. And then on top of that, I have this cupboard here, and there's almonds, right? So really and then also I have this Cholula hot sauce here, as you can see, right? So really, all I eat is 5 things. And I can explain what those things are in just a second. My diet consists of, well, it's basically what you would call an elimination diet, right? It's extremely simple, it's extremely straightforward, and it's engineered for me to have the best gut health possible, right? So what do I eat in a day to basically achieve good brain health, right? Or good gut health with a good brain, right? Just bring this back a little bit, okay? So the first one is ribeye. Second one is sweet potato. The third one is almonds. The fourth one is spinach. And the fifth one is eggs. Now you can also add Cholula hot sauce here, because Cholula hot sauce is the only hot sauce I found that tastes good and doesn't have sugar in it, right? So really, I'm gonna just say I eat 5 things, right? I only really eat 5 things, and this is not a joke, by the way. This is not some weird, autistic joke. I only really eat 5 things. Now, don't get me wrong, I will go to restaurants and I will go to dinners, and I will every now and then relapse and cheat and do silly things that I shouldn't, like eat a burger or go and get a burrito from Tortilla. And so I'm not eating this all the time, all day, every day, but the majority of my meals consist of these 5 things. And really, I'm looking to try and achieve anywhere between 3,000 to 3,500 calories per day to be in a surplus, depending on where I need to be. Sometimes it will be slightly less, but this is the thing. So understanding this is so important, because when I eat the same things, what am I doing? I'm being consistent, right? And so if I want to have consistent energy levels, and if I want to have consistent mood and a consistent state of mind, all of that is coming from the state of my gut health. And so it kind of works like this. I'm going to just draw this, let's just draw this here, right? So we start with the gut, right? And then we have the brain, and then we have the body doing something. If I want to have consistent behavior, I need to have consistent mood. Now, this could be mood, or it can basically be mental state. If I what I need to make sure is that I'm not randomly waking up one day and having loads of brain fog, or having loads of anxiety, or having like really low energy, or being all chaotic and weird, right? And if I want to have consistent behavior, I need consistent mental state. And if I want to have consistent mental state, I need to have a consistent state of gut, right? And if I want to have a consistent state of my gut, then what I need to do is make sure I'm only eating things that don't interfere with my gut, right? Because if you're eating sugar, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're ingesting artificial sweeteners, if you're eating food colorings, if you're eating seed oils, if you're eating loads of like saturated fats, so there's a whole argument to the fat thing. I eat a lot of fat, right, but good fats. If you're eating lots of bad cholesterol, there's 2 types of cholesterol, right? You're gonna have an inconsistent gut state, then you're gonna have an inconsistent mood, and you're gonna have inconsistent behavior. And if you don't believe me, if you think this is all just a load of rubbish, some sort of psyop, just try it. Performing an elimination diet is probably one of the single best things I've ever done in my life ever, for my progress and success ever. Because diet it's all about diet. Your behavior comes from your mood. Because I'm telling you now, if you're trying to be, you can eat really bad food and still be successful. It's just significantly easier to perform actions that you know you need to perform when your gut is in a good place. And remember what I said earlier about having a goal, because this comes from your goal, right? Because if you're trying to eat really good foods just so that you can be healthier and take care of yourself, probably not going to happen, because, well, if it was going to happen, you'd have already done it. So what's happening is you're using diet as a method of self-sabotage if you're not eating properly, right? So you have a goal which forces you to eat well so you can achieve the goal, or at least you should understand that by now, which creates the gut state of mood. So, if you're trying to every day, you're looking to sit down and just work for 10 hours, right? And the behavior you want is just nice, consistent 10-hour work days of, solid, pinpoint, focused work where you're just focusing on one thing and you're getting it done every day and you're performing that behavior and you're making progress, right? If you want to do this every day, if you're anxious or stressed, or if you're really brain foggy, or you're lethargic or tired, it's just impossible. It's not impossible. It's just very, very difficult to keep good behaviors consistent when you have a bad diet. Because your diet affects your gut affects your mood, and your mood affects your behavior. Remember what I said, your gut is like your internet connection, your brain is like your phone, and obviously your body is your body. But it's kind of like if you're trying to use your phone and watch a video, like let's say that you're trying to watch this YouTube video, right, on your phone. Well, if you've got a really terrible internet connection, you can still watch the video, but it's just going to be in 144p, or it's going to keep buffering. So the quality of your experience trying to perform the behavior is so heavily influenced by the state of your gut, and therefore your mood, that it's just worth fixing this. I've experimented with a ton of diets. I've tried vegan, I've tried pure carnivore, I've tried a lot of different things. I've done fasting, I've done non-fasting, I've done all sorts of stuff. And what I found is that just having a balanced elimination diet where you're eating just slightly above maintenance is what works the best for me. So if I'm trying to bulk, this is what I'll eat. And then if I'm not trying to bulk, then I eat typically less than this, right? So what I'll do is I'll usually have about 700 grams. Sometimes this will be 950 grams. About 1,000 grams, like 1 kilogram. It can be either or, depending on like where I want my calorific surplus to be. And I regulate my calorific surplus depending on my workload. For example, if I'm trying to record a module for my program, I actually put myself into a calorie deficit for a small period of time, because I'm willing to sacrifice my gains in the gym for my business, because my business is more important to the achievement of my goal than my, how wide my shoulders are. So I have the ability to regulate this diet up and down and change the variables around a little bit depending on like my workload. Because I can tell you right now that if you're going to try and do 12 hours a day, focus work on one thing that's really difficult to comprehend and deal with, if you're trying to digest north of 1,000 calories in a surplus, or even a couple of hundred calories in a surplus, it makes it significantly harder for you to do that. I built Easy Grow, my program, that I spent 9 months on in a slight calorie deficit. And I lost a lot of weight doing so, but we focus better when we're in a deficit. This is typically if maybe I'm trying to maintain or maybe be in a slight surplus. So I'll actually just give you some ranges here because it makes more sense, right? So 700 grams to 1 kilogram of ribeye, and then anywhere between 400 grams to, once again, 1 kilogram of sweet potato. Now I also have this with salt and olive oil. And this is also with salt, but no oil. And then once again, depending on whether I'm bulking or not, 100 grams to 200 grams of almonds. And these are just like raw almonds, no additives, nothing special. And then usually it's just like times 1 punnet of spinach. I don't actually know how much I eat in grams. And then it's gonna be anywhere between 3 to 6 eggs. And these are like large eggs, right? So if you can see that, let's put it here. 3 to 6 eggs. Now, yes, I go to restaurants every now and then, I'll order out, but for the most part, this is what I'm eating, right? And what I always notice is if I order out or go to restaurants and eat loads of crap or eat sugar or eat snacks, I always feel really bad the next day. And then I find it harder to work and do the behaviors I want to do, right? So this is basically what I eat. This can range between 2,500 to 4,000 calories, depending on whether or not I want to put myself in a deficit or a surplus. I never marry myself specifically to a bulk or a cut over a long period of time because my work is always going to come first. So if I'm, like I said, trying to perform, if I've got to spend an entire week fixing spreadsheets and hiring people and making very, very important decisions for the company, I won't put myself in too much of a surplus, or I won't put myself in a surplus at all. Because if I try and do that, then what happens is a lot of your energy is going towards your gut, trying to digest this food, instead of going towards the business, right? So that's what I eat. And just try it. If you can't afford ribeye, then just do minced beef or something. But if you're wondering what that costs me, it probably costs me about £1,200 per month. Maybe more than that actually. It's gonna cost me probably about $1,500 a month to eat. Right, and I know that sounds just absolutely insane, but the steaks are quite expensive. But if you're wondering what company I use, it's called Prime Gourmet or Carne Store. I'm in Dubai, so they deliver. The steaks that I eat are from a farm called Silver Fern Farms in New Zealand. It's free range, organic, grass fed, basically the best beef on the planet that you can get. No antibiotics, no crap, just pure good steak. And it makes me feel incredible, right? And it costs a pretty penny. It costs $1,500 a month, which is most people's, double most people's rent, right? But to me, my performance as an entrepreneur is worth so much more than $1,500 a month. So if I'm eating great food and performing really well, this is an incredible investment. The biggest ROI you can ever make on an investment is going to be in your body. And if you're investing money into your health and your body, then boy, oh boy, this thing is going to change your life, right? So if I could probably cut this back and spend $600 a month, but then my performance would decrease, which means I'm going to make less money. So, you have to start looking at your health as an investment because failure to do so is going to be impossible for you to be successful. Right, so where were we? And I know that Hormozy says never skip dessert, but he's a freak of nature. And I'm not necessarily trying to disagree with him. I'm just telling you what's worked for me, okay? So number 3 is water, right? So what you want to try and do here is drink a ton of water, right? So the best water you can find, drink it. If you're not in a position right now where you're making a ton of money, then you don't need to worry too much about buying the best steaks and buying the best water. But once again, I drink these Evian bottles in Dubai because you can't drink the tap water, and I don't want to be ingesting microplastics, so I just drink this stuff which has the best mineral content as far as I've been able to find, at least stuff that I can order readily available in Dubai. And so this is expensive, right? I think I probably spend, once again, about $1,500 a month on water. Because I buy them in glass bottles and we get them ordered and it's not cheap. But it comes back to the fact that if I'm going to be ingesting 6 liters of a liquid every day, I want to be ingesting the best quality liquid possible, right? So once again, it sounds mad to spend that much money, but sure, I could just get, desalinated seawater, with low mineral content in a big plastic bottle, but I'm then going to be getting less minerals and vitamins, and I'm also going to be digesting plastics. And sure, I'm going to still be able to build a business drinking that water, but the point I'm trying to make is it's all about quality of input. There's a documentary called Chef's Table, right? If you watch this, what you'll find is it's all about the ingredients. When I watched Chef's Table, And I actually got this from my mentor, Sam, shout out to Sam Evans, for those of you that are familiar with him. He was telling me about this. Like when I watched Chef's Table, I was expecting the quality of the food to be down to like the way they cut the knife or what chopping board they use, or, like exactly like how much of something they put in, which is important. But what I found is that most of Chef's Table most chefs in the world that make the best food in the world, what they usually do is they just focus on finding the best ingredients. And they focus on what's an ingredient, it's an input, right? So if you want to make a really good lasagna, like it's not about the way you cut the courgette, or do you even put courgette in lasagna? Freudian slip, I don't know, but you get the point. It's not about the way you cut something or like the bowl you boil it in or whatever. It's about how good the ingredients are in the first place, right? And so what I'm trying to do in my life is look where I can to find places to put the best ingredients. Now, I'm in a position where I'm nearly making $1 million a month, so I'm able to buy stupidly expensive water and stupidly expensive steaks. When I started, I didn't have this. It's not imperative. I'm just telling you what will help you optimize your health and behavior. But really what you're looking to do with your water intake, it kind of sounds dumb, like how do you make more money and how do you be consistent? Oh yeah, just drink water. Well, duh, obviously. But you're looking to take anywhere between 4 to 6 liters of water per day. Now, I actually probably drink too much. Sometimes I'll drink north of 8 liters per day, although that hasn't been as much recently. But I can't tell you how much of an impact this is going to have on your business and your life. Because if your body's not got enough water, it's not going to be able to perform functions properly, and it's not going to be able to metabolize the calories you give it, and then you're going to have all sorts of problems, right? So water's a big one, a very important one. The next one is going to be sleep. This is very simple. What you want to do is you want to establish a consistent circadian rhythm, right? Where you're going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every day. You might want to get blue light blockers, but I wouldn't concern yourself too much with trying to optimize your sleep. Just get an Oura ring. I've got one of these here. They're about $350. So once again, not cheap if you're just starting. So maybe you want to hold off until you've made some money. But you want to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, because your circadian rhythm basically determines your hormones, right? And so, in your body, if I just draw you here, right? But let's just say this is you. In your body, you've got hormones, right? And you've got all sorts of different hormones. You've got melatonin, you've got cortisol, you've got all of these different things, right? And your circadian rhythm, which is basically the time you go to bed and the time you wake up, will determine like your hormone clock, essentially. So if your body knows to wake up at 7 a.m. every morning, then what it's going to do is it's going to reduce melatonin and spike cortisol around that time. And if it knows you're going to go to bed at 11 p.m., then it's going to start to increase melatonin and decrease cortisol at that time. There's other hormones involved in this, like ghrelin, that basically determines the saturation of your hunger. There's hormones that determine when you should drink water, when you should urinate, when you should defecate. All of these biological imperatives, your body basically has a clock, right? And we have 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and all of the times in between. And your body will basically work around the clock to produce different hormones for different actions and activities. This is an input, right? Your sleep is an input because your body's a system and the clock is a process, right? And so if you're waking up and going to bed at random times and giving your body all this chaos, then your hormones are going to regulate at different times. And because of that, it's very hard to work against these things. If you don't believe me, just try and do a full day's work when you usually go to bed. Right? Or, try and just do an all-nighter and do some good behaviors. It's very difficult to do that. So you want to basically give your body a predictable, consistent clock to work around. And what that means is your behaviors and your work ethic and everything is going to line up with the hormone imbalances that you've created. And so you can have consistency. And that's basically called your circadian rhythm. And it's really important you create this and you maintain it, because if you try and work against these hormones, it's just very difficult to do, okay? And there's lots of hormones involved. I'm not gonna get too far into it because, well, this video is already long enough and I know how much it is to ask of someone on a YouTube video to sit and watch a video for a couple of hours, because, well, that seems to be impossible these days, but that's sleep. The next one is basically your environment, right? Your environment has a ridiculous impact on your behavior. And what I mean by this is things that you are exposed to, like, an immediate stimulus in your environment, has a very large impact on how you behave. Primary example, I stupidly recently bought an Xbox, started playing it, and then I literally got rid of it. Like I had Modern Warfare 3, I'm good at quickscoping, right? So I always used to quickscope. So I was like, I want to play this game. Stupidly bought the game, started leveling all the snipers, slide cancelling on Wasteland and Terminal, like just popping heads, destroying people. It was great fun, right? But then I realized, like, well, this is just stupid, isn't it? Because now I'm literally sacrificing everything just to get some dopamine from the odd hit marker. What the hell, what's the point of that, right? So I had to remove the Xbox from my environment. So what I did is I took the disc, I got a fork, and I scratched the back of the disc and folded it and put it in the bin so I couldn't play the thing anymore. And then I got my Xbox, unplugged it, and threw it in my swimming pool, and then put it in the bin, right? Like, this is not even a joke or a lie. I actually did that because I don't want that thing in my environment. Because if the Xbox is in my environment, I'm going to be tempted to play it just by having it there. So, like, I'll go to extreme lengths to remove things from my environment that are conducive or give assent to or make it easier for behavior to manifest that is not going to contribute towards my goal. Because this thing will get you. If you are trying to quit alcohol, but you have a bottle of vodka in the cupboard, get rid of it, right? It's kind of like if you want to eat healthy, just don't buy unhealthy food. You know, and if you want to not buy unhealthy food, don't go to the shops, right? So this is another thing that I do because this sounds extreme, but I actually do these things, right? I want to maintain consistency in my diet, as you know. I want to eat those 5 things as much as I can to avoid doing things. So I will delete Deliveroo, or I've deleted Deliveroo, Uber Eats, InstaShop, Talabat, although I use those for the water and the food. But I've deleted food delivery apps. Like, I've actually deleted my account, so I cannot log into them, even if I download them stupidly. I've got methods of protection from these things. But on top of that, I order all of my food from an app, so I can't buy stupid food. So I'm not going to a supermarket. Because if you go to a supermarket, you're entering an environment that is geared towards getting you to buy as much crap as possible. It's the same thing why I won't log into Facebook. So, you know, if for example, I show you this, like, because your environment exists physically and digitally. But if I go onto my laptop here, so you can see the immediate environment here is basically like, there's nothing here, right? And then if I go to something, let's go to Google Chrome. This is the spreadsheet I showed you earlier, right? If I go to LinkedIn, right, you can see I'm not signed in, right? Same thing if I try to, for whatever reason, go to Instagram, I'm not signed in. Same thing even if I try and go to school, right? I'm once again, I'm not signed in. So I don't know why I was logged into Facebook by some blasphemy I was, but you kind of get the point, right? The same example here. If I try and go to YouTube, basically it just goes to my subscriptions, which is literally just a Lex Friedman podcast. So even if I try and go to the YouTube homepage, there's nothing there, right? And that's a tool called Undistracted that you can download. It's a tool that you can use on Google Chrome. So with the embarrassing exception of me saying I was logged out of Facebook, but I'm not, I try to do everything I can to make my environment conducive to work and unconducive to bad behavior. Like, if you look in my fridge, you're not going to find any bad foods. If you look in my cupboards, there's no bad foods. I'm trying as best as I can. Like, even if you look at my office, which I can just show you quickly, you can see all I really have is some plants here, right? And I've got my desk here, which is a standing desk. I've got like a little couch thing there. And that's basically it. Like, if I'm trying to work, you'll see here, my phone is in my drawer and it's turned off. So I can't even go on it. Right? Now I'm actually recording this video on my other phone, but you kind of get the point, right? Like, everywhere I can, I've got my daily planners here on my desk. Well, they're not on my desk, they're on my stand. So every day I've got something that I can use to log and plan my days, right? And that's in my environment. It's immediate. I can just pick it up and use it. So you want to basically do an audit of your environment and look at everything in your immediate surroundings. Just bring this in here. You want to look at everything in your immediate surroundings and remove things that do not contribute towards your goal and introduce things that do contribute towards your goal, right? For example, I've got books laying around everywhere that if I read will help me with my goal. I don't have cigarettes lying around. I don't have alcohol in the house. I don't really have anything that is going to lead to a bad environment and create destruction in my life, right? So that's a pretty big important one because, you know, your body's a system, all systems operate in an environment, and the environment will have more of an impact on the process's ability to produce the outputs and properly synthesize the inputs than near enough anything else in the world. So the last thing that you need to watch out for is people. Boy, is this a big one. People. God, this is huge, right? So the people that you hang around, this is like a facet of your environment, because the people that you're around and you see, like, they're part of your environment technically by extension, but they're so important that, you know, they're going to have a category of their own. Like, the people that you hang around are so important to your goal, right? If you're hanging around people like that are working towards a similar goal, or have a similar work ethic, or have traits or characteristics or, you know, things that like you want, then you're going to start having those things. But if you're hanging around people that are bad and unsuccessful and overweight or undisciplined or lazy or stoners or alcoholics, well, you're probably going to turn into one of those, right? And there's a quote from Epictetus in his book Discourses that says, if you put an extinguished piece of coal next to a live one, then one of two things will happen. Either the live coal will become extinguished as a result of the extinguished piece of coal, like, being unlit, right? Or the extinguished piece of coal will be lit. But it's more common for the coal that is lit to become extinguished, because it's much harder to transfer energy in a positive direction than it is in a negative direction around the wrong people, right? The people that you expose yourself to are just so important in your life. Now, I'm not telling you who you should and shouldn't get rid of. Like, you might think that certain people in your family don't have particular traits that you want to associate with, but they're your family and you're kind of stuck with them, and, you know, that's kind of your responsibility. So it's up to you. But the people that you are friends with, like, I don't have a huge amount of friends, to be completely honest and transparent with you. I can probably count my closest friends on one hand. You know, those people being Bo, my business partner, Will, close friend of mine, Vince, close friend of mine, Jack, and there's a couple other people. And if you know, if you, for those of you who are friends with me, like, you know who you are, right? But really, like, there's not a huge amount of people that I'm mates with. And most of them, they all work with me, right? So I've integrated them into my life to the point, like, I like them so much that I'm like, hey, here's an important role in my company, can you do it, right? A lot of people say hiring friends is a bad thing, but it seems to have worked out for me so far. You know, another one is my sister, my brother, like, they're like my best friends as well. And they've got traits and characteristics that I love, and I love them. And there's a ton of people in my life that I've got rid of and had to cut off. And not because I'm better than them, or because, like, I think that I am in any way, shape or form superior to them intellectually, morally, whatever. It's just because, like, they are on this planet for different reasons to me. And if I hang around with them, then I'm going to do the bad thing. Like, you know, if I hire someone who's weak-willed, then the entire team's going to become weak-willed. Like, it really is true that a bad apple spoils the whole bunch. You need to be really careful of this, and really, really careful. You need to police who you let into your life, who you let into your friends list, you know. And I'm not telling you that you should get rid of people, but I think if you're being honest with yourself, it should become clear, because it all comes back to, once again, this bad boy up here, the goal, right? The goal is the consistency of this thing is important. Like, you know, pick one thing and just work on it. But you need to ask yourself, are the people that I'm around going to help me achieve my goal? So the people that you spend your time around and the people that you involve yourself with, you know, the whole cliche of you become the 5 people you hang out, it's true. It's a cliche for a reason, and the person that you're going to spend the most time with is your partner. So what's important you do, and this is kind of how I've decided to do it, is build your value as a person before going to pick your life partner. Because, you know, as a man, you know, when you have value, and I'm not denoting personal value based on wealth and status and stuff, but my point is that as a man, when you have financial abundance and you're mature and you're emotionally stable, you're healthy, you're, you know, clean in terms of all of this stuff, like, you have more value in the dating market. More people will become attracted to you because of the security you can provide, the emotional stability, and there's a whole bunch of other things like physicality, spirituality, mentality, etc., etc. But when you've built yourself, then you kind of get to sort of pick, and you get not that it's like a picking game, but you get the point, right? It's kind of like, if you're a woman, you want to attract like a good, honest, hardworking man. It helps to be a good, honest, hardworking woman, you know? So you want to become someone so that you can attract a myriad of people, and then you've got the option to sort of pick and choose who you think would be the best fit for you based on your criteria and what you think would make you and the other person happy, right? And so this is what I've done with my people and the people that I spend with in my life. And so I'm very careful with who I let in. I'm very careful with who I give my number to. I'm very careful with who I date, who I see, who I associate with, because I know that whoever I pick is going to basically rub off on me. And if I'm not careful, like, I'm gonna basically develop their behaviors. And that means I want to basically be around people that have good behaviors and that have a good mindset, a good paradigm, a good belief system, or at least one that's conducive to making me happy and helping me achieve my goal. I want to just caveat this as well by saying that, like, you don't want to just live your life purely just to achieve your goal. Now, that's kind of what I'm doing. But the point I'm trying to make here is there's more to this than simply just selecting a goal and being like, okay, well, if someone can't help me achieve this goal, I'm not going to marry them. Or I'm not going to eat a pizza because it's not going to help me achieve my goal. You don't want to become too extreme with this stuff. You still want to have the natural human tendency to fall in love and make mistakes and stay up late and, drink alcohol and have fun, right? And you don't want to just look at your goal and be like, I need a partner that helps me achieve this, because that's psychotic. We are emotional beings. We are humans. We are spiritual animals by nature. We're visceral, right? And so you want to be careful by taking this stuff to an extreme. So it might be tempting to look at this and think, well, Charlie's a psychopath because he's picking his wife based on his goal. No. That's not how that should work, right? That's not how that should work, because you're still a human and work is just one component and facet of your life. For me, it's a very big one, which is why I take this stuff to such an extreme. But if you want extreme results, you have to go to extreme measures, but not too far. Not too far, because you still want to keep some chaos and some integrity and be able to fall in love and spend time with people that you love, regardless of whether or not they might help you achieve your goal. Because there's going to be people in your life that you enjoy and that you find fun and you want to hang around with, but might not necessarily be perfectly conducive to you achieving your goal. But that's fine. As long as they're not going to completely destroy you, it's absolutely fine. So just don't take this to an extreme, because I do not take this to an extreme, right? It might sound like I do, but the point I'm trying to make is just don't be a psychopath, right? Because it's easy to do that if you're not careful. If you take it too much of an extreme and you disregard all human connection and contact, and this goes to this, then there's no reason to live. Because you can have your goal, but if you haven't got a supporting family, a loving wife or husband, great kids, great grandkids, good health, etc., it was all for nothing, right? So this is one component of a happy life. Don't take it to too much of an extreme or you'll be in some trouble. So that's basically how to achieve consistency. If you are a coach or consultant or an agency owner and you need help getting more clients, there's a link in the description you can click. It's a video of me trying to sell you something for transparency. We help people get more clients in the agency space, coaching consulting space. I don't care if you click the link or not. The truth is that I just want to make these videos to, fulfill your life and help you live a happy life by teaching you things that people taught me that made me successful and happy. But if in the process I can book some appointments, I ain't gonna say no. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe.